You don't have to stand.
I'm not joining you.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm the only one.
Okay, I better do it real quick. First thing, thank you all for being here this morning. I want to start out by acknowledging Senator Chris Van Hollen, as well as Congressman John Sarbanes and Kwasi Mfume, who have all been equal partners in the fight to restore mail and service to our constituents. This past May, I took the step of asking the Office of Inspector General of the United States Postal Service to conduct an audit of the most problematic post offices in my district, including Dundalk. Congressman Mfume followed suit, requesting the same for post offices in his district, and Senator Van Hollen chairs the Appropriations Subcommittee on Financial Services and General Government, which oversees the post office and has jurisdiction over the United States Post Office appropriations, and chaired a hearing on this issue in July. We are all joined today by several of our local elected officials and state elected officials who have also been on the receiving end of endless complaints from customers who haven't been getting their mail, including paychecks, even prescriptions, medications, sometimes for weeks at a time. Senator Johnny Ray Solling is here, Delegate Rick Metzger, Delegate Bob Long, and also the Councilman Todd Crandall worked with us on this, and also Delegate Robin Grammer. We thank you for your service, and we work together on this as a team. Now, I want to thank the team from the Inspector General's office for hearing our pleas. As the request of myself and Congressman Mfume and Sarbanes, they came to Baltimore and conducted a thorough audit of Dundalk, Essex, Rosedale, Parkville, Middle River, Loch Raven, Clifton East, Druid Station, and Carroll Station Post Office. Their review spanned 92 weeks from October 4th, 2019 until July 2nd of this year. The results were not surprising. The results were not surprising. You can hear it now? Oh yeah. Want me to start all over? No. Okay. Of the 7 product categories they reviewed, including first-class mail and packages, 4 never met their service target in any of the 92 weeks reviewed. Only 1 product, Parcel Select, which caters to corporations, met its service standard more than 4 times during the audit period. The Baltimore region had the 2nd highest number of missing mail inquiries in the country, with more than 3 times the national average. You think we had a problem here? In June, auditors found mail here in Dundalk that had been postmarked December 2020 that had never been delivered 6 months later. 6 months later. Management told auditors that the main problem is lack of staff, including many carriers who took COVID-19 leave. A nationwide audit of COVID-19 leave within the post office found that nearly 96% of workers using it did not have proper or full documentation proving their eligibility. And auditors here found that problems predated the pandemic, and there are a lot of other contributing issues. For example, employee roles were not updated in January or February. There were about 40 carriers who either resigned or were terminated, but weren't taken off the rolls. So management didn't know they needed to recruit new hires. Auditors also said management needs to do a better job preparing new hires for the physical demands of the job and needs to expand its training capacity. At one point, the Baltimore region only had 1 training academy, and they could only handle 7 new hires at a time. A second academy has been opened, but a third is needed. Now, management also isn't using available diagnostic tools to determine where to shift carriers around, and they weren't reporting delayed mail accurately. On some days, they weren't reporting any delayed mail at all. Auditors also found that 42% of packages sampled were improperly scanned, and that means customers can't track their packages. And again, we've heard from outraged constituents. We've visited post offices ourselves and experienced the frustration firsthand, so that's not surprising. But here's the good news. Because of this audit, we now have the data, and more importantly, data-driven recommendations to implement real change. In all, the auditors have made 7 specific recommendations to fix these issues. Management has already begun developing corrective plans and target implementation deadlines either November 19th of this year or November 30th of this month. Meanwhile, a separate initiated audit by the Inspector General of the Processing and Distribution Center downtown is still underway, with results expected by the end of the year. And again, I want to thank the audit team. This is why we have Inspector Generals. They help us provide accountability and transparency, especially when Congress has no jurisdiction. Congress has no jurisdiction over the post office. And that's very frustrating when you're trying to follow and help your constituents. Remember, the United States Post Office is an independent agency that falls under the executive branch. They don't receive any taxpayer dollars, so there is very little we as members of Congress can do to get them change the way they operate, aside from using our soapbox, conducting hearings, and requesting an audit like this one. We're throwing everything we can at this problem because our constituents deserve better. Now, before I turn it over, I do want to say the buck stops at the top. All of us here have called for the resignation of Postmaster General Louis DeJoy.
Yes.
Okay, we need someone who will give our local leaders the tools they need to succeed, not cut overtime and limit extra delivery trips to save a few bucks. We're going to keep fighting until service is restored to the level our constituents deserve. Today, we have one more tool in the toolbox. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Chris Van Hollen, who, as I mentioned earlier, chairs the Appropriations Subcommittee on Financial Services and General Government. That subcommittee oversees the United States Post Office, Inspector General, and has jurisdiction over United States Post Office appropriations. And Senator Van Hollen chaired a hearing on these issues in July. I'm glad we have a partner at this level. After Chris comes up and our other speakers, we'll then open up the questions. Chris.
Thanks, Dutch.
Showtime.
Well, thank you, Dutch, and thank all of you for joining us today as we talk about this audit that reveals the unacceptable mail service in the Baltimore area. That is no surprise to the people living in this area, but now we have a report to help guide us in terms of actions. And I want to thank Congressman Ruppersberger for originally requesting that audit report, to Congressman Mfume for pushing it along very hard, together with Congressman Sarbanes and Federal Team Maryland. Senator Cardin can't join us today because he's leading an official delegation overseas, but he has very much been part of this process. This is not the first time we've gathered together in front of a Baltimore area post office. In August 2020, we gathered in front of a different post office because we were hearing from thousands of constituents about the unacceptable delays. And we've been demanding change and demanding accountability ever since. As Dutch mentioned, as Congressman Ruppersberger mentioned, I chair a subcommittee and in the Appropriations Committee, and we convened a hearing and brought before us a number of constituents and the Inspector General. We heard from our constituents what all of you have been hearing and many experiencing, which is small businesses who are experiencing unacceptable delays. And that is hurting their business and, of course, making it harder for their customers to receive their services. We heard about the people who are required to get medicine and whose lives and safety are put at risk because of delayed distribution of medicine. We heard from folks who are just trying to pay their bills on time but get charged late fees because either the bill and invoice is taking too long to get to them or the outgoing bill payment is taking too long to get to where it's going. I just spoke, actually I was just down the street here at Little Crystal Bijou, a small business owner right here in the neighborhood, who told me she was having difficulty getting some of her paint supplies on time, which are necessary for her business. So those are the kind of stories we heard. We also heard testimony from a Rania Dima, who was there representing at this hearing the National Federation for the Blind. She's been diagnosed with an illness that is causing her to go blind. She needs to get equipment and supplies through the U.S. mail. They have been constantly delayed, and she provided very powerful and heartfelt testimony about how that was literally making it more difficult for her to address her disease. So this is what it's all about. At the end of the day, all the statistics boil down to individuals, whether they're homeowners, whether they're moms, dads, small business owners, who just can't get their mail delivered on time, and sometimes not at all. So here's what the Inspector General told us. Number one, that yes, the measures that the Postmaster General, the not so new anymore, but Postmaster General DeJoy had put in place a couple years ago were having a dramatic negative impact on mail delivery nationwide. But it was also her testimony that here in the Baltimore area, we were experiencing particular hotspots, and that the audit was being conducted at the request of Congressman Ruppersberger and other members of the delegation, and they were going to report back to us. And that's why we're here today. We've got those findings. Congressman Ruppersberger has detailed them. They're very alarming, but the good news is those findings are accompanied by a roadmap to getting things better. But just to give you a sense of, we weren't imagining things when we were hearing from our constituents much more than people in other parts of the country. Right here at the Dundalk office, they documented in that 21-month period 163,000 cases of delayed mail. The complaints coming in to the Baltimore area post offices and to all of us and to our senators and delegates and council members, and I want to thank them because they've been on the front lines and working with us as well, are 3 to 5 times higher than the national average. That's just another indicator of what a hotspot the Baltimore area has become. So the good news is that the Inspector General report, this auditor's report, lays out a to-do list, and they're pushing to have that to-do list put in place by the end of this month, by November 30th. They want a new system for developing plans for hiring and retention and better tracking efforts to combat issues of staff shortages. They want to open a 3rd training academy in the Maryland area to train staff so that the men and women of the United States Post Office are fully equipped with the skills they need. They want to train all station management to report delayed mail and delayed packaging in the customer service system so that UPS can better track them. They have a dashboard they're developing at the national level. They need more information fed into that dashboard so that we can monitor in real time the delays. So those are actions. The action plan is here. Now we need to implement it. We hope it will be implemented quickly. We hope we don't have to have another gathering anytime soon in front of another post office. But we need to make changes with DeJoy right at the top, and then we need to implement the changes that are recommended here in the auditor's report. And now I want to bring up somebody who, as you heard, has been pushing for this report ever since he was elected to office. He was sort of besieged by these understandable constituent complaints about unacceptable service and got to work doing something about it. Kwasi Mfume.
Thank you very much, Senator. My thanks to you and to Dutch and John Sarbanes and the members of the state legislature who've joined us here today. I think it's obvious that the problem in Baltimore has been unlike any other problem nationwide. In fact, if you want to say it's the worst, you can say it is the worst. And the question becomes, how did that happen? And then why did it happen? John Sarbanes and I both serve on the House Oversight Committee. Last May and June, we brought Louis DeJoy before that committee under oath and question him at length about what was going on and what was not going on. It was clear to many people that because we were in the midst of a mail-in ballot, that Mr. DeJoy sought in any way he could to slow down the mail and the processing of ballots. That would affect, in the long term and the short term, the election. Of course, Mr. DeJoy denied that, but there is no other reason to explain why, after taking office last year, he immediately ordered a number of mailboxes to be virtually snatched off of corners in places all over the country without an audit. You have to have an audit before you can remove mailboxes. He removed mailboxes at will. There's no reason to explain why he started disassembling nationwide a number of sorting machines, which imperils and really critically puts in place a disastrous situation inside of post offices because there's so much mail to be sorted. He slowed down overtime pay and then tried to suggest that the mail deliverers were the problem. And then he suggested that, of course, we don't have enough money. Congress got the money and the problems continued. So now we have this very, very important report. I was happy to join with Dutch and John in requesting that the Inspector General look at post offices here in Baltimore, in Howard County, in Baltimore County, in Baltimore City, everywhere in the central Maryland area to figure out what, in fact, was going on. So we've got now a report, and I commend your attention to that report. We've got also a number of findings, and we also have, I think, a blueprint for the future. But let's make no mistake about it. The problem starts at the top. You cannot blame postal workers who worked their fannies off to get us through a pandemic when no one wanted to come to work. You cannot blame them. You can't blame the mail carriers or the people inside of post offices. This problem started when Mr. DeJoy really got behind the wheel and started driving this car off of the cliff. So we've got to just keep in mind one thing, that since it starts at the top, that's where the change has to come from. This morning, I wrote the president a letter. I hope to talk to him tomorrow when he is here, calling for the replacement of Ron Bloom. Mr. Bloom is the chair of the Board of Governors, who works hand in glove with Mr. DeJoy. I'd called for Mr. DeJoy's resignation last summer when we were in front of the Central Post Office. We just need action, and we need action now, and we expect and hope that the president will finally do something about this. This can't go on, and it's not enough to pass the book. So I'm just glad that we've got this report. I'm glad that all of my colleagues have stayed here and stayed on this issue. We've been on it for almost a year and a half now. And I'm glad that the hardworking men and women of the Postal Service did not lose faith, did not lose courage, and did not lose hope. Our job now is to make sure that the fine points of the Inspector General's report are carried out. We pledge to do that. We will work with, as we have been, post offices throughout the area. We will work with the new postmaster in the area, but at the end of the day, as Senator Van Hollen said, we hope this is the last press conference we have to hold in front of a post office in order to make sure that the United States Postal Service, which has been around since Benjamin Franklin and has enjoyed a 90% approval rating from Americans all over this country for the last 200 years, will in fact continue to be efficient, that mail delivery will once again become prompt and something that people can count on for their prescriptions, for the bills they have to pay, and for the communication they have with one another. Thank you very, very much, and I just want to bring forward my seatmate on the House Oversight Committee, John Sarbanes, who has been working very, very hard in tandem with all of us to get us to this point. John Sarbanes.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Dutch Ruppersberger and Kwaishi Mfume for ordering up this audit. It's very powerful. It's damning, really, when you look at it. As Congressman Mfume said, when you compare us to the rest of the country, the performance here in Baltimore in terms of these issues that we're discussing is right at the bottom, and we've got to lift that up. They've made powerful statements about why it's so important in terms of respecting people in the community who have the need for a post office that functions well to make sure that these findings are given attention and that the recommendations are implemented. To follow up on our, I think, consensus criticism of Louis DeJoy, Congressman Infume mentioned that the approval rating of the United States Postal Service for decades and decades has been 90% plus out there in the public. It's one of the institutions that Americans trust above all others. But over the last 2 or 3 years, that approval rating has been dropping, unfortunately, and it tracks the tenure of the current Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that whatever the program and proposal and agenda he has, it's undercutting the trust that Americans have in the Postal Service, which means there has to be a change, as all of my colleagues have said, at the very top. But it's not enough to do the criticism and shine a light on the things that have been raised by the Inspector General's report. I think we all want to gather around the recommendations that can improve things. 2 recommendations that jumped out at me in particular that were made were, one, that the district manager of the Maryland district develop and implement a plan to hire and retain enough carriers to consistently reach the customers. We know there's a workforce shortage problem. We know people get hired, they get trained, and then they leave the position for one reason or another. There's got to be a more sustained workforce so you can depend on your letter carrier showing up and delivering that mail. And the other recommendation that jumped at me was that the district manager open another city carrier training academy. There are 2 in place, but we could do with additional training opportunities to make sure that when we hire these folks up, they stay in the job, they build that relationship with people in the community, and they can be trusted the way the U.S. Postal Service used to be trusted. We can get back to that. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but I think we can deliver on it, and we're going to continue to work together as a delegation, federal, state, and local, to make sure that the people in the community are respected by the U.S. Postal Service. Thank you all very much.
I want to thank, I'm Senator Johnny Salling here, the senator in this district of Baltimore County, and I want to thank our federal partners for coming out and standing up for the people, because this is just what it's all about, the people. As it was stated, they're not getting their prescription. Their credits are looking bad now because they're not getting their mail. They're not getting their Twix cards, so they can't go to work. I mean, there's a lot of things happening here, and we're getting the emails. We're getting these problems here that we know we can answer the call. They want to hire. We want to hire veterans. We want to hire people that want to work, and I think people do want to work. So we really want to get out there and tell the people right now, the post office is open. They're here for you. And if you need a job, get in here and fill that application out and work. And it's good pay. It's good pay. So please, let's help out our communities. As it was stated, this is a worldwide thing that's a problem. In our nation and around the world, I think it's a problem. Because we're getting stuff from China, we're getting stuff from other countries, and people aren't getting anything at all in weeks or months. I talked to a few people today. They told me they have gotten 1 piece of mail in the past 2 to 3 weeks. 1 piece of mail. And some of them aren't getting anything. Again, this is not a political issue. This is a people issue. And we continue to need to work together and get it out. And tell the post office there needs to be accountability. And I believe Congress should have a better stronghold in some way that they can push something and say they can act on it. They can be a part of it, or our senators, or even locally. Because locally, I think we could do more. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And there's only one reason why we're here. You vote us in place where we are in our position, and we want to work for you and do the best that we can. So I want to thank our federal partners, and I want to thank you all. God bless. And now, Dutch.
Yeah, Delegate Metzger, Delegate Metzger worked with me from the very beginning on this, on a lot of these issues before it got to the level. And then our whole team came in together, our federal, state, and local, and that's where we are today. Delegate Metzger.
Thank you, Congressman. The Bible says that this is the day the Lord hath made, and I will rejoice. We can rejoice today because the audit is fin. That's fact. I told someone this morning that the blame game is over. We got the audit, we got the paperwork in process, we got the plan, and now we need to forget the words and put the plan in progress. That's a good spot to say that's true. Ladies and gentlemen, we have worked ourselves silly to the bone. We said 163,000. I can tell you, I probably got 162,000 of those emails. I've had people knock on my door. I don't have mail. And it was real easy, Dutch, to say, well, it's a Congress issue. You can call your congressman. But no, I said, that's not real. All politics is local. And this was my constituents, and that's why we got in hand, and we had our first press conference, and since then we've had several. But I will tell you that we are making progress. And in fact, I had a lady stop by my house Wednesday. It's today Tuesday? What's the day? Today's Tuesday. Friday of last week, and say, Delegate, thank you for the mail. We got at least mail 4 days a week, where we would get them 6 days a week. But they have taken people from other post offices and brought them back and moved them then, and then like in Perryville or Havre de Grace or someplace else, and then the mails. So we got to get people hired. Got to get people back to work. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Bob Long. Sure.
Thank you. We've been fielding a lot of calls out of our office, and one of the things that I recommended to anyone who called our office, if you have medication that has to be shipped to your house, use FedEx, whatever it takes to make sure you get your medication. If you don't get your bills on time, call your lender, call your credit card company, let them know what's going on. Make sure they don't ding your credit. There's something we need to talk about, possibly working on some legislation possibly that would waive any credit scores during this pandemic, because a lot of people have got their credit scores dinged because of no bills and because of lack of work. And it's something we need to talk about real seriously. And again, I just want to emphasize, if you have medications, get FedEx, UPS, whoever you have to get. And if you're late on your bills, please contact your credit card companies, let them know what's going on. And we don't want to see this continue, that's for sure. I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you.
Good, okay. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for all the speakers. Now, do we have any questions from anyone up here? Yeah, go ahead. What's your name?
My name's Jeff Paytek.
Hi, Jeff.
I'm a retired postal worker.
Good.
Last 15 years as a postmaster and manager.
Okay.
How many people have been fired since you got your audit?
How many people have been
How many people have been released or fired from the post office since you got your audit back?
Well, we officially haven't gotten the audit, but I believe at this point. Well, I don't know the answer to the question, but if you want, what's the purpose? What do you want me to do for you?
The purpose is, somebody is causing a problem in an office, and you ship them somewhere else, you're going to get the same problem.
We're trying to do the best we can. We've got the audit, and that's all we can say.
5 years experience.
Well, that's fine.
More than anybody in here about the post
We're here to announce what we're trying to do and trying to do it. And we want any help we can get from you because of your experience.
My question though is, I think I have the same kind of question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because my first read of the audit, to sum it up, it's gross mismanagement.
Yes.
Yep.
At whatever level, but a lot of it, like, how do you know you fire someone but you don't tell anyone?
Look, it's
But-
all.
But my question is there, are there guarantees that the managers didn't know how to manage? Will there be out of
We're
the
starting.
job?
We've been working on this for over 2 years, because the post office is not on the jurisdiction of Congress. We've had a very difficult time getting the facts and data that we needed. That's why I did whatever I could to bring the Inspector General. Inspector General is an independent agency that will look at this operation. The Inspector General came in. We are glad they did, because they don't come to many places. And they took our jurisdiction because they saw how bad it was. They said they would finish their report. We got the report yesterday. We have to review and go over the report, and then we go further there. But again, we don't have jurisdiction. That's under the jurisdiction of the President of the United States. But we're going to do whatever we can to put the pressure of Congress to make sure this is fixed. How that's done, that we hope that and he will, the president has to remove the board first before DeJoy goes. Get the right management team in there and move forward, just like any management problem that we have anywhere. And that's where we are at this point.
Congressman, was anyone from, was the Baltimore Postmaster?
Come closer if you can, boy.
Was the Baltimore, sorry, I don't want to.
Hey, you might get on TV. Go ahead.
I'm in close peak. Okay. Was the Baltimore Postmaster or anyone from the district office invited to attend this news conference?
The Baltimore?
Postmaster?
Not that I know of. We invited the elected officials and put it out. And that's what we're here to really come to talk to the people about this report, which is good news, so that we can move forward and do the job we need to do with legitimate tools. When you don't have jurisdiction, you have legitimate tools. We have now this report. I know the president will be behind it. We've talked to his team, and he has to make the changes first, which he will, as we move forward, and we hope to see the changes. We already have the third new person coming in management here in the Dundalk area, has been brought into this area. I met with her 3 weeks ago, and she is on top of the issues that I think are important. We didn't have the audit report, now she will have that. She's considered to be one of their best who's come out. Yes.
She's actually responded
Come in
to
here.
many of the, I'm sorry, Jamie Lennon with Congressman Rupert Sperger's office. The new district manager for the Baltimore region has actually responded to each of the recommendations contained in the audit. I'd be happy to get you a hard copy. So she is aware, and it's also, Kate, to your point, it's also my understanding that they have already implemented or started to implement some changes in response to these recommendations. For example, the issue where they weren't reporting folks who had either left voluntarily or been terminated, they've already have a new process in place to make sure that that does not continue.
Yeah, and what percent was not even notified when they were let go, and it was still on the paperwork?
Right.
40 some
Sure,
percent.
my pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, what's your name?
Amy Simpson with Fox 45.
Okay.
Congressman, you mentioned a light timeline of implementing these recommendations, but you also mentioned that there was pieces of mail found postmarked December of 2020.
That's correct.
6-7 months later. We're now heading into the holiday season, and no doubt this is the busiest time of year for USPS. What is being done to ensure that we don't see another massive failure?
We got the report. There are very few issues that we now have the ability to use our leverage to make things change and to help our constituents on this mail issue. Okay, number one, we have the report. Number two, we have a new person in that leadership at the top have said is one of their best people, who has been here, I believe, 3 weeks. We've met with her, we've gone over the issues with her. She has committed that she was jumping on this right away. And that's all we can do at this point. Again, because we have limited jurisdiction, but we're not going to say we're walking away because of that. We're putting everything, and this team here, who are constantly getting the complaints from the constituents, have been working with us together. And that's all you can do at this point. And I really feel good about this. I feel this is good news, it's positive news, and we're not going to rest until our people start getting their mail on a daily basis.
I just had one quick question.
Yeah.
The Congressman and Senator Van Hollen, you all said this isn't surprising, and it certainly isn't validation to all these mail customers. But was there anything in the report that did surprise you?
I haven't read the whole report.
Okay.
We just got it. Yes.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was any, maybe the number of mail pieces that were delayed, or.
Oh, that surprised me. That surprised me for the last 2 years. And that's why we made this as high priority as we could. And all the people here have been working together as a team to do that. And this is a good day, because now we're going to be able to make a move, and hopefully we do. Our president will have the authority to change the board. We'll have someone who's competent, who knows how to manage, and hopefully we can get back to our history of 1776, when our post office was here, and they have never let our country down. As far as what?
Let me.
As far as I'm concerned, we're on our way now. This is good news. Go ahead.
The one thing that surprised me, and should surprise all of you when you read it, is how little attention was paid to a flawed operational plan that got put into effect last June of last year that we are still living under. So I would have thought that the Inspector General would have looked at that and said this contributed in whole or in part to the situation. So I was surprised I didn't see that. The management issues that were discussed were management issues that happen at local levels and state levels. And it's almost as if the Inspector General just shied away from the fact that Louis DeJoy and his group put in all of these things that took place in June and July and August of last year. The removal of mailboxes in communities, the dismantling of sorting machines, the denial to give overtime until there was a great amount of pressure. So that surprised me, and maybe in the follow-up report to Dutch and myself, the Inspector General will have some additional findings. We don't preclude that. But as he said, we just got this, and we're reacting to what we've gotten.
Good job.
Did you have anything to add?
No, we, as you've heard and know, we've been getting these complaints, and we acted on them in terms of trying to focus the spotlight on where the problems are. This report does provide us with a roadmap. Our job now is to provide oversight and make sure that they implement these changes on schedule. And so we're going to continue to do that. Accountability is important. We'll have to see what the new managers do with this report. So we have to have accountability at the local level, the state level, and as my colleagues have said, at the federal level. And when the Inspector General testified in front of the subcommittee that I chair, she did point out that the baseline issues around the country in terms of much worse service were the result of what the Postmaster DeJoy put in place. But that being said, clearly we have a hot spot here in the Baltimore area, and we need to get at the other issues and make the changes that are required by this report.
So 2 weeks ago, DeJoy said he was going to slow down first class mail, which is 13 ounces and under. A lot of people get their medicine first class mail. That's not good.
I agree with you.
Nothing did is good.
Right, and that's why we, as soon as we have to change the management, and that's being worked on now.
I think all of us believe that we've got it. We've been calling for the resignation, removal of Postmaster DeJoy for a long time.
Well, it all started when he put all that in. DeJoy, he's the worst. I've been mailing stuff for years, and this is the worst. DeJoy's been the tragedy. He really has.
I agree. Did you know you have a crab on your hat?
That's a nice looking crab, though.
We're not going to afford them.
Okay.
Good one. Another story.
They're for privatizing the post office. We've already heard calls.
What's that? What? Start over.
We've already heard calls to use FedEx.
Yeah.
Do any speakers endorse privatizing the post office?
Absolutely not now. We're going to fix this problem. Post office has been a part of our country and our life. They were doing a good job until this, and we're going to turn it around because of a couple decisions from a couple people. We took a great operation and we turned it around. Now we're coming with this report to make sure we follow the report, and I think we'll turn it around soon. And the good news, we've done so much to put this issue out here in this area of our town, of the Baltimore region, that we feel very good that we're going to turn it around sooner than we think, even before a lot of these things are implemented, because of the team that was sent to us who are considered to be good. If not, we'll be on them too.
So, quick question.
Wait a minute. Yeah, who? Yeah.
Laura McLucas, since she was installed.
Who is that?
She was installed as the district manager.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to know if you had seen any improvements since she came.
She's been here 3 weeks. We've had a communication with her, but I have not talked with her since then.
I have an off-topic, but I guess on-topic question.
And then you're next.
Members of the congressional delegation, if you could, President Biden is visiting here tomorrow. Are we planning to be there with him, any of you? And if you speak about the infrastructure bill.
It's all part of our style. If we have the opportunity to say something with our district, we're all going to try. I mean, he's there for another reason, the Port of Baltimore, and that's one of the most important job centers for us. But if we have a chance to get our issues before him, don't you? We know when to say something, and I hope we can talk to him too.
Yep. Well, let me just say, I think we look forward to welcoming President Biden to the Port of Baltimore, and this is to talk about what the infrastructure modernization bill does for the port and all the jobs in this area that surround the port, as well as other measures in that bill, repairing roads, repairing bridges, repairing tunnels, and investing in 21st century infrastructure. So looking forward to welcoming the president to Baltimore.
And,
Yeah.
Congressman Afule,
Yeah. And then,
the infrastructure bill, what does it bring for your district?
well, it's really not about my district. It's about, I think, the U.S., in particular, in our case, Maryland, just does great things. Senator Van Hollen and myself and others went to the highway that goes nowhere in Baltimore City to pledge that we would find a way to get the infrastructure bill passed so that we could, in fact, restore that community and other communities like that to what it was. One of the good things about this issue is that the Port of Baltimore, unlike what we've seen in Los Angeles, does not have 100 container ships backed up. They've been working hard. The men and women who do that work very hard. They've got new cranes and they're doing other things. We want the president to see how things work when they are funded and when they work properly. So it's a very important visit on infrastructure. One thing I need to point out, though, is all of you may know, Mr. DeJoy on October 1st, just a month ago, implemented a slowdown in the mail. Now, this is already on top of a slowdown. He implemented another slowdown. So several of us in the House of Representatives has co-sponsored a concurrent resolution to make sure that we roll back those changes prior to what happened on October 1st. So we're really getting hit by a double whammy. You know, the Inspector General does a great job. Dutch, myself, John, Chris, we're all fighting at the federal level. And then October the 1st, to add insult to injury, Mr. DeJoy implements a nationwide deliberate slowdown in the mail. So this concurrent resolution, which is in your packet, is an effort to try to find a way to roll that back. Thank you. Didn't mean to get off topic.
Thank you all.
okay, anybody, what? She, what?
Gloria Nelson from Turner Station. My
I know.
question
Gloria.
is, with the anticipated
Come here, come up here.
No,
Okay, I can't, okay, come in, please.
Will it be delivered?
The what now?
Our backlog of mail that has not been delivered.
Yeah.
Can you anticipate it will be delivered?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
personally made mail Mother's Day cards, which have never arrived. It was 3 out of state and 2 local. And they had checks and gift cards in them. To this day, they have not been delivered.
And they didn't categorize it, and you might never see it. We might have lost it. And that's what we're going to have to see as the new team is
If
in.
you call our office, we'd be happy to open a case for you and take a look.
Thank you.
Good, good. Okay, I think if that's it, we thank you for being here. We're going to do everything we can. Thank you all for contributing. Take care.
Hey man, good to see you.
Okay, guys.
Great to see you in charge.
That's one of your constituents. That guy.
That guy.
That's one of your constituents.
It's a protest.
Let me tell you, if you represent Dundalk, you got
I
a
just
lot.
was wondering, what were you?
Hey man, I miss you. Let me give you my new card. You see my boss?
Take care.